Right, hello. I wasn't going to be doing anything at all today. Not been too well. My COPD's playing me up, but I'm just so fed up with sitting around reading, doing nothing. I thought I'd do a quick video. I may or may not put it up. I don't know yet. I'm going to do a watercolour, and I'm going to do it very loose. I'm going to do it Ron Ranson style. So I put Ron's favourite palette out. It's just an ordinary white plastic food tray, and it is lemon yellow, raw sienna, light red, alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue, burnt umber and Payne's grey. I probably won't use all of them, but I'll give it a go. I've scribbled in some ideas of roughly where I'm going to go with it. It doesn't make any sense at all at the moment. It's going to be some trees there in the background, more bushy bits, and a couple of big trees coming up on this side, which will balance the darks over there, I hope. So before I do anything else, I'm using big hake. I haven't used these for months, if not years, so I may have completely forgotten how to use them, but I'll give it a go. Nothing ventured, nothing lost. So there we go. Very difficult to get the hang of to start with, and every time I think I've got the hang of them, they take the better of me. There we go. There's the big hake. Very wet. The problem with them is they hold so much water. But I mean, look, these two are exactly the same. That's a dry one and that's a wet one. So we'll see. Anyway, no further ado, I will wet the whole paper. Very, very wet. Well, down to the ground line anyway. I've taped the board down, which is not a particularly Ron Ranson thing to do. He used to just do corners and use clips so he could keep it stretching. The reason I've done it is because this is an A3 pad and I haven't got any A3 frames, so I've masked off 14 by 11. So at the end I should be able to put a mount on it, see what it looks like. So there we go. We have wetness. Mopping up the bottom end. The board is at about 30 degrees, something like that. It's more or less stuck in position, this board. It's just a piece of MDF taped to another piece of MDF, which is screwed to my desk. And this is where I do my watercolours. Behind me is where I do my oils and acrylics, but at the moment I've been doing everything downstairs because we've got a new doggy and I've been looking after Gaia, but I'm so feeling rotten at the moment that I'm not doing any of that, and so I've come upstairs for some pieces of quiet. Okay, right, it's wintry. I don't want a bright blue sky, so ultramarine, nice big puddle, and into that I'm going to put just a touch of alizarin, and that gives you a sort of wintry, cloudy coloured sky. Before I do that, because I'm an idiot, I meant to put a nice warm bit in on the horizon, so I'll dry off the brush. They're a bit tricky to dry off because you have to squeeze them. If you pull them, the hairs will come out. So there we go. Tidy up my bottom, and before I go in with that manky lump, I'm just going to make a little very pale raw sienna wash. And I'll just put that, give some warmth to the horizon there, and I'll bring that down because it'll go into the path in the middle. A little bit of light red into that to bring it forward. Whoops, too much. Lift some of that. While the paper's wet, you can do almost anything you like with it. Now, I've got most of that water out of my brush. Dry my hands. And lift some of that out. See, that is running down a little bit. There's madness in my method, I promise you. Now I'm going to put this grey, but touch it, the umber in there as well to grey it down. And there, put some light red in, which makes a nice grey sort of colour. There. Now that will dry about 50% lighter. What I'm doing, I'm just tilting the board, let it run down a little bit. while that's going off, the brushes that I've got to use, well, no, the brushes that I have out, most of which, or some of which, I will be using. Pardon me. You're watching paint dry at the moment. There's the big hake. I may use the smaller hake. I've got two big hakes. That's a dry one, that's a wet one. I've got a very old one, which is good for doing stipply things, because the end, if you can see it, the end's pretty damn naff. I've got an Aquafine inch, well, 3/4 inch flat brush, which is good for doing hard, smaller edges. And I've got a rigger. And that is all I'll be using. I think if I suddenly panic in the middle, I might go and find a number 8 round, just tidying up the bottom. Always keep your bottom tidy. So there we go. This is why Ron used to stretch it as he went along. All that will go by the time it's dry, but it's a bit tricky sometimes if you get stuff running into the middle if you don't want it to. And I'm chunnering now because I'm just waiting for it all to dry. While it's still wet, I'll put in some of the distant trees, and I'll do that using the bluey mix I've got here. I shall put burnt umber into the blue, I'll put a little bit of the raw sienna. This is a wintry sort of time, so I don't want loads of bright greens in it. Just mixing up a distant tree colour. A touch, tiny touch of the Payne's grey, but I want this more grey than anything else because it's fading into the background, but I'm using a lot of blue in it because the blue will take it back. Now remember, that is wet. In order to avoid getting cauliflowers, which is back runs, the paint I'm putting on needs to be thicker than the paint already on it. So there's slightly less water in this. There's a certain hit or miss element in this because a lot depends on how it finally dries. One of my rules of thumb is always to use the biggest brush you think you can get away with. some dark into that. It's still at an angle, it will still run down. Have some little gaps there. Right. Wash the brush out. While it's still damp at the bottom here, I'll put some grassy bits. The raw sienna, touch of lemon yellow, and into that I'll put Payne's grey, which gives you a wintry sort of grass colour. I want some darks into that. All I'm doing, I'm not showing you this, but I'm mixing the raw sienna into some ultramarine, and I'll just before that dries completely, if you get this too wet like I have there, it will run back into itself, and I'll leave it dry a little bit more. What I will do while that is still wet, I'll get my rigger and I'll get some dark colour. I'll just flick some darks into that. and they will blend in while it's still wet. And we've got oh, I was showing you the brushes, wasn't I? I didn't show. Yes, I did. Never mind. Going bonkers. I will get around while I think about it. Except I'll probably knock the camera. Okay. I'm going to get my hair dryer. All that noise is me wrecking a joint while I get my hair dryer, which I wasn't intending to use, so it's not plugged in. It wasn't plugged in. Right, okay, now stick your fingers in your lugs. Right, that's not 100% dry, but most of the wet's gone out of it. And you can see the paper's flattened and it's not coming off. And you can also see how much lighter it's dried. And we've still got those going off in the background. The reason I did that was purely and simply for speed. So now I need to put some bushy bits in here, some bushy bits in there, some big trees, and get that path sorted out. Which is what I shall do next. Okay, path. With the path I'm going to use much stronger and not so runny raw sienna. Didn't wash my brush, still got some of the mank in it from before. Nothing picks up paint quite so well as a thirsty egg. most of that is gone. Clean the brush properly. I should have a towel somewhere, but I can't find it, so I have to use kitchen roll, which is not ideal. Best thing for drying brushes is actually an old toweling thing. Never ever throw out old toweling dressing gowns, just rip them up and use them as paint rags. Okay. We're following that light through the middle, hopefully. Tiny touch of light red into it as I come forward. Yes, it's something I should have done a practice before I did this. Tilt the board again, let stuff run down a little bit. Tidy up the bottom. Right, okay. That's them. Before I put my big trees in here, I want to put bushy bits behind them. So you put your lights in first. Which in this case is plenty of raw sienna and a touch of lemon yellow. This is why I wanted it dry. It darks into the base of it. Trying to use just the corner of the brush. These twiggy bits. Some more over this side. Some more green on this side. Pretend there's a holly bush or something here. Being so knackered, I'm forgetting to talk while I'm doing this. Okay. Clean this brush out again. What we've got now is definitely distance, middle distance and foreground, which is what we're trying to do. But what I haven't got yet is interest. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put in a big tree there. Now, that's wet water. What I want to do now is dry the hake so it's just damp. There. Now that takes out a great big tree. I'll take out a smaller one. Now, what we have there is a couple of silver birches. The light is coming from this side, I've decided. So, get my brush really sharp. And I can't do it here because I've got water on the paper. You just squeeze it between your fingers like that. Don't pull, just squeeze. And there you've got a very sharp edge. And I just want some dark paint on that edge. I'm using the umber and the ultramarine, which makes almost black. Because the light's coming this way, no, I'll have the light coming that way. That way I can make nice interesting shadows, in theory. That's a little bit too wet. It's all about getting the right amount of water on the brush, and where I've gone wrong here is my brush is a little bit too wet for doing the effect that I want. Now it's nearly dry. And we've got sort of round feeling of there. Just to knock it back a bit more, still with the brush nearly dry, get some of that dark colour I've used there. I'm just twiddling it to the right shape. And the paint I'm putting on here is practically straight out the tube. Right. Having problems with that, I'll use the 3/4 inch flat just to fiddle myself in tidier, more tidily. There. And just to tidy it off, Payne's grey, a touch of the raw umber, just down that side. While that's still damp, it should spread in a little bit. As it hasn't, just dampen it a little bit. Clean damp brush. A bit of texture in the bottom there. Okay, whoops, there goes. Nothing. I am going to get the round. So talk amongst yourselves for a minute. I'll try and cut that bit out. That's what happens when you bang your head on your boom. Right, there we go. Sorry about that. I'm not bleeding too badly. Okay, the reason for all that was I went to get a brush. This is a number 10 round, made by the SAA. It's an imitation sable, and they are very, very good brushes. I love them. They're a fraction of the price of a real sable brush. They last for ages and ages and ages. And look at the point on that now. Right, okay. They're made out of synthetic stuff from Japan, but never mind. Anyway, I'm going to put some broken bark at the bottom of this tree. This is basically Payne's Grey with a bit of burnt umber in it. Silver birch is always, when they get to certain maturity, the bottom end tends to break. Now, more brown, and I'll put some branches coming off. Some light on that. Because it looks more like a split in the trunk than a branch. I love trees. I've been having a lot of mental health problems lately. If you know me, you'll know this. And trees are the things that get me through. I love them. Okay, we've got the big white trees. And we'll put some big dark trees as well. Umber. I'm going to use this for doing the trees. On this side, I'll try doing some hakey ones on the other side. Umber. Payne's Grey, nice dark colour. I shall put some light red in because they're fairly near. That'll warm it up. Now, trees get thinner the higher up they go. So I'll start at the top. And press a bit harder as I come down. It's one. And another one. A bit further away. Now, because the light's coming that side, we take some paint out. All I'm doing is using a damp brush, clean damp brush. pull out. Okay, that's that. This is a different sort of tree, so it can have different sort of branches. Branches, always try to, branches don't very often come off with geometric regularity. They tend to grow odd bits off the trunk. And they tend to go upwards because the whole point of branches growing out of trees is they're looking for the sky. So the time, that is a manky mess up there. Let's see if I can mend it. Now I might get some cauliflowers coming in there. I have to keep an eye on it. Or with a bit of luck it might look like a cloud. Yeah, branches tend to be trying to take leaves up to the sky so they can do photosynthesis. So they tend to grow up. When they grow out, they're trying to get out of the forest or the wood to find some light. So that's a bit of useless information which you probably knew anyway. Some light into this. Down here, bit of counter change. Counter change is light against dark, dark against light. And all I'm doing is pulling out little bits of dappliness. Looking for dark bits at the back. I'm pulling out some light bits. I've got some trees there. Now, what I'm going to do on this side is I'm going to, because that's all nice and dry, I'm going to do a great big oaky thing growing up here, but I'm going to do it with the hake, show you how that works. Now I'm mixing very thick dark paint. Because it's coming forward, I'm putting some alizarin into it, make it warm, and it's very, very thick, gloopy paint. And, yeah, that's dry. Great big gianty tree. There, you can see we've got a big bugger there. Now if I sharpen this, when I say sharpen it, I'm doing that. I should be able to get quite fine lines. These are going further away, so I want them not quite so dark, so I'm adding a bit more water, a bit of palette filth. Got these trees. Now, this is where I have the most difficulty with the hake, which is the dry brush stuff, which I'm going to need to do on these trees here. Now, you've got to almost dry it completely. Just dabbing it off with a towel, squeezing it. Now, Payne's grey, touch of the blue, and it needs to be fairly sharp. I need a new hake. wash it out, shape it, too much water. Okay, we've got them. Now I'm going to do that middle distance bit there. I want, because the light's coming that way, I want some sunshine getting in there. I'm going to use the smaller hake. I'll use this old one. Knock that back a bit with some that should have been raw sienna. It's got some light red in it somewhere. Never mind, it looks quite good. Okay, I've got that. Bung that in there. Now I'm going to use my big round brush and mix up ultramarine, I'll mix it into there, alizarin crimson, touch of the burnt umber. I've got a nice warm shadowy colour. And now get the jolly old rigger, join up some of those twiggy bits to the trunk with some little flicks. Some stuff growing up in the base of this big old tree. Don't know what happened there, but it's gone anyway. Just to add a little bit of definition to the path, mix up some blue, some raw sienna, very darky sort of colour, and I'll just sorry about that, that's my phone telling me it's time for bed. There we go. Call that one finished. I don't like that lumpy bit, so I'll take it out. There, that'll do. I've just destroyed my thing again. I'm not sure if this is ever going to go up online, but kept me quiet for a bit. Take my mind off not being able to breathe. So I've just let it dry, clean off the brushes, have a little look at it. Clean the brushes after. Right. rummaging sound is me looking for a mount. There, that's close enough. Just finish it off a little bit. There you go. Winter sun or something of that ilk. I quite like that bit. I'm not sure about that tree. Think take that off. A little bit better. That's better, it's got a bit more definition now. Give it some age. Yeah. A little bit of taking out. There you go. Yeah, that does look better. A little bit of light coming in to that side of it, which matches the lemon yellow bits on that side. So there. Okay, I might a few more twiggy bits over there. That'll do. Okay, I'm definitely stopping now. Hope you enjoyed that, if I ever get to show it. Just me playing with the hake, because I haven't done for a long time. Oh, one thing that I haven't shown you. The rigger. Get some dark colour in there, almost dry it. And using the side of the rigger, you can add texture. Do some on there as well. Okay, no more. That's enough. Thank you very much for watching, if it's shown, and if not, I'll see you on the next one.